So my name is Nikki Scott and I've been with Advisor Plus for 10 years and I'm currently in our operations manager position and I have the joy of being Sarah's line manager.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lyon, been with Advisor Plus for 9 years now. I'm a senior HR advisor, and as Nikki said, we've been direct line manager and manager for 4 years now. I think the purpose of this is to hopefully share our experiences as women, but also as employee and manager, just to share our experience of menopause so far. So I think from my perspective, I'm a little bit further down the road than Nikki is in relation to I've gone through the perimenopause stage. That was relatively uneventful for me. I think in retrospect, looking at the symptoms, yes, I didn't realise that things like joint pain, headaches, chills, etc. were menopausal signs until I did a little bit more research. I think the main thing for me is a bit of a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to, I tend to cry at the drop of a hat now, which is not like me, which I'm sure Nikki can attest to. And just really sometimes being able to express how I'm feeling in work, which I think because of the relationship Nikki and I have built up over the years, but also as a manager, as an employee, we've been able to share those experiences together, which has been fortunate.
Similar to Sarah really, but like she said, I'm a little bit behind her, and also, you know, mine is definitely an impact of age, but also due to a health condition and some medication as well. It's brought on those symptoms a bit quicker and escalating those quite quickly now. I don't so much have as many of the physical symptoms, so the typical symptoms we imagine, you know, I have a few of them like hot flushes and things like that, but it's mostly around brain function and pace and emotion that I find are the symptoms that impact me the most.
And they're the challenges in work that we've both experienced. I think I've articulated to you in the past that I have worries that if I start to get upset about something that I wouldn't usually have gotten upset about, and I've been able to articulate myself in a very professional way, I don't want that to dilute the message that's coming across if we're experiencing any challenges. I've been fortunate that I haven't been, because of COVID, we've not been in the office, so I've been able to control my temperature and my environment, whereas I think that may be something that from a workplace perspective, if we'd have been in an office, I might have struggled with that. But from a challenges in work perspective, I've not really had that many, other than trying to adjust how my brain sort of reacts to certain scenarios. I now have to pause and think, whereas before I was very quick and snappy with my responses. And I know you've experienced that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly the same. So you can be in a meeting and just get tongue-tied, and it could come across sometimes, or you fear that it can come across like nerves, but it's not nerves at all. It's just your brain processing what you want to say. It doesn't quite come out the way you want it to come out. Or you'll be doing a task in work and you'll just completely forget what you're doing. You'll open an application to do a piece of work and you'll think, why am I in here? And I know that happens to everybody all the time, but it's that increased frequency. But yeah, I completely agree. And it's that emotional side of it where, you know, your tolerance of workload and things just feels slightly different, or a task you would ask to be done before, which you wouldn't phase you in the slightest. It just takes you a little while to come around to it a little bit more, I think, now.
I think the thing to consider as well is we're both winners. We're both Advisor Plus winners when it comes to what we've achieved over the period of time where we've been going through the menopausal phase. So you can't detract from the fact that it's not impacted our performance. It's not impacted our credibility within the business. We've been able to onboard new clients. We've been able to deal with challenges in technology and still go through this menopause. So whilst from a supportive perspective, Nikki as my manager has had this open door policy where it's, if you need anything, give me a shout. If I need to take 5 minutes just to go and cool down, rethink something, articulate myself in a different way, maybe via email rather than via word. We've been able to adapt our style and our approach to support that. If I've needed time off to obviously have GP appointments, Nikki even gave me a gentle nudge when my original medication treatment wasn't working. And I hadn't really realised that the symptoms that I was having was in relation to the menopause as opposed to just general symptoms. So she gave me the nudge to go on to HRT and to get that changed because it hadn't suited me originally. I don't know what support you've had, Nikki, as a manager.
Yeah, similar. It's that open door policy with my manager Hannah as well. So I've got a great working relationship with her, and I think over time, I think that consistency of line manager has been really crucial because they get to know your ways of working, and what your restrictions are and tolerances and what can overwhelm you, and they can predict that could potentially happen and put steps in place to make sure that it doesn't. And I think a similar thing for me is. Whereas before I could be asked a question or, and I could give an answer. Now I need to maybe reflect because I might think, oh, I can't do that. Whereas before I wouldn't, so I'd have just picked it up and run with it. Whereas now I'll maybe need to absorb it a little bit. So I've learned to say, okay, leave it with me. I'll think that through and come back to you. And my manager understands that completely and doesn't put me under that pressure to just give an answer there and then, and gives me that time to reflect and come up with whatever piece of work I need to come up with. But I think from it's that getting to know each other's ways of working and knowing each other personally and what your touch points are, and talking about it openly. I can't stress enough how important that's been for me.
I think from our perspective, we've been fortunate that we've obviously got a good working relationship. And I think sometimes we've acknowledged, haven't we, that it's a very serious topic, the menopause. There's a lot of focus on it out in the wider business and the wider community. And we've been fortunate that we can have that open door policy and communicate. I think we've chatted around, it is a serious topic. However, we make jokes about it because if you don't, it becomes overwhelming, it becomes too much. So that's our coping mechanism. So we've even shared with our team members our experiences, and they've really absorbed that from different age ranges, male, female, etc. And they understand that it's impactful. And I think that we've given them a little bit of food for thought on how we're feeling. From my perspective, though, if we give anything back to anybody who's going through this situation, is have an open door policy with your manager. If it's a male, for example, or somebody that, even a female that you feel that you can't speak to, then try to have that conversation, broach it with them just to gauge their sort of understanding of what they know about the topic. If you don't want to talk to them, then email, because ultimately I know I get flustered sometimes when I'm talking, so I can sit down and think about an email and send it that way. I suppose the other option is, if you really can't talk about it, is talk to a trusted colleague who maybe can approach a line manager, who can then go and do some research before engaging with you so it doesn't feel scary.
Yeah. And that would be my advice for line managers as well. Do that research. It might be something is nowhere near on the horizon for you, or you could be, just have no awareness of menopause and how that can impact your staff. Do some research, speak to people, make it an open conversation point within a team meeting. That's what we've done. And it's surprising how much information people started sharing across, not just from a personal perspective, but people have got family members, friends who have maybe going through it or have gone through it. But also, in our work in HR, we're speaking to managers all the time who have got cases where this is connected to as well. So that information is everywhere. And it's just encouraging everybody to be really open about it and share experiences. And I think as a line manager, it's recognising, getting to know your team, talk to them, and making sure that you encourage that two-way experience and that you recognise when that individual might need some support. So talking about Sarah, I've worked with her for 4 years, like she said. I know when she maybe feels a bit vulnerable. She's not vulnerable, and I know she's 1,000,000% comfortable with what she's doing, but I can recognise those signs of where I need to just make a little ad hoc call and just say, are you okay? And I think that's the most important thing. It's that two-way conversation and keeping the momentum going.
It's not a taboo subject, whereas historically it's been a very closed door conversation. You've been quite fearful about talking about it, because my interpretation of the menopause is it's a little old lady sat there knitting with a cardigan on, and that's not the case. So if we can help one person to start engaging in a conversation with their line manager, with a friend, with a doctor, then we've done our job. This is a difficult conversation for me to have, but if it helps somebody, then that's all we can do.